All right. It's been a while since I've gone live. I'm going to see if this works or not. I've been trying to record this video this whole afternoon, and for some reason my brain doesn't want to work and record, so I decided to go live and put myself in a pickle where I have to put my thoughts together in front of the camera because people are watching live. This will be available for public replay if everything works okay. Let me know if you're here. Just type in the chat. Yeah, it's been a while. Scooby Dooby Doo is here. What's going on, Scooby? It's been a while since I've seen you. Biz is in here. What's going on, guys? This is cool. I've been trying to record this video all afternoon, and sometimes I have an off day, and my brain just does not want to work. So I decided, you know what? Throw myself into the flame and the fire. Just go live and talk about this. That way I can hear everybody's opinions. It's not just me talking. And hopefully, can everybody hear everything okay? That's the other thing. I don't live stream very often, so I hope everybody can hear everything okay. We got Sirius, Sircan, Akawa, Greg, Fishy Friends in here. I apologize if I say your name wrong. But yeah, I'm open to all of you guys' opinions about why Bitcoin miners aren't going up. I'll give you my opinion. I mean, I have a whole video put together that like I said, I just couldn't record. My brain didn't want to work. So I'll kind of go through the notes that I made and my thoughts on what's going on. If you want my opinion, I think there's a lot of dynamics at play here. I think people are freaking out a little bit too much. Like, I've gotten 3 or 4 text messages from people today asking why Bitcoin miners are sucking and Bitcoin itself is close to a new all-time high. Things like that. People are freaking out, and rightfully so. I mean, we've had a rough last week or so, really, owning Bitcoin mining stocks. Oh yeah, I see a lot of new people in here. What's going on, everybody? But without further ado, I guess I can just hop into what I was going to talk about in my video. I'll start here. You know, Bitcoin is at $67,516. It looks like we had some latency there, but it's at $67,516. That's less than $2,000 away from a new all-time high. That's crazy to think about, because it wasn't that long ago that Bitcoin was trading at sub $20,000, and there were a lot of people at that thought Bitcoin is going to go down below $10,000 and that Bitcoin was going to cease to exist. Well, all of a sudden, just overnight, it seems like we're close to setting a new all-time high with Bitcoin. We had a 7% day today, and actually, I think it's up 8% over the last 24 hours. This is let that speak for itself. But you have Marathon Digital, the biggest Bitcoin mining stock that's publicly traded. It was down 4.78%. And you had CleanSpark, my personal favorite pick, down almost 8%. In fact, down 7.9% considering after-hours price action. So it's a valid question. What's going on here? The first thing I want to mention is this. Okay, let's go to the 1-year chart of Bitcoin. Over the last year, Bitcoin is up 202%. Very, very good return. You can see just recently how it started to go parabolic. Marathon over the past year is up 306%, almost 307%, vastly outperforming Bitcoin. CleanSpark is even more crazy if we go to the 1-year chart, up basically 577%. So I do think it's a mistake to just focus on the last week of trading and say that Bitcoin miners are performing terribly. Why would anybody want to own them when you can zoom out and see why people should own these stocks? If you believe in the long-term, the longevity of Bitcoin, owning Bitcoin mining stocks is not a bad idea. I'm going to turn my light up a little bit. It's getting darker outside. It's not a bad idea overall. So when in doubt, zoom out. Don't let all the noise from the peanut gallery get to you. Yeah, it's been rough. It hasn't been super fun. But the miner's day in the sun is going to come again. This is something that always happens. And you always have to remember too, when you have a stock move 567% in a year, you have a lot of traders that enter that stock because naturally they see something going up, they buy in because they want to make money and they don't want to miss out on the train, so they buy in. And then at the first sign of distress or uncertainty or doubt or fear, they take their profits or they take their loss, whatever they have at the time, and they sell out. And the faster a stock moves up, the more traders are going to be involved with that stock. It's just the way it works. And this is not new for Bitcoin mining stocks. I don't know how many of you were around here the last cycle, but this is something that happened quite often the last bull cycle. Bitcoin miners would underperform Bitcoin over a short period of time, but over the long term, the Bitcoin mining stocks vastly outperformed Bitcoin itself. Now, let's get into some more of the nitty-gritty of why I think this is happening. And I think there's something that CleanSpark did, and I think there's something that Marathon did that is adding to the uncertainty and doubt and fear with Bitcoin mining stocks. So let's start with this. Is this the tab I want? No, this is what I want right here. CleanSpark's executives, the CFO, the executive chairman, and the CEO on February 27th, which props to them, they timed the top of CleanSpark perfectly, but all of them sold, I shouldn't say all of them, Matthew Schultz, the executive chairman, sold right around 10% of his holdings. Zach Bradford sold around 10% of his holdings. And Gary Vecchiarelli, however you say his last name, sold 26,000 shares of his basically 570,000 shares that he held at the time. And whenever you have executives come out and take profits and sell, it's never going to create a positive reaction in the stock market. It never will. Now it's true. There's a lot of reasons why an executive team or management team member would choose to sell their stock, but there's really only one reason they choose to buy. So keep that in mind. But these three sells that CleanSpark's management team did doesn't help the stock market at all, especially with Bitcoin mining stocks. And then you have, I'll scroll this over here, Marathon Digital launching Slipstream. And this is just one of the examples. If you've kept up with Marathon Digital, they have announced several different and new revenue avenues that they're trying to take advantage of with Bitcoin. And this also adds uncertainty and doubt to the market of owning Bitcoin mining stocks. If the biggest player in the space is searching for alternative revenue sources, in a way, and perhaps inadvertently, Marathon is telling the markets that it doesn't think that their revenue from mining Bitcoin alone is going to be enough to be profitable and to be successful. They're searching for other sources of revenue. And that may or may not be true, but that's something that the market might start to think. Even if Marathon doesn't want to give that image to the markets, it's something that Wall Street and the markets might start to think. So this is one of those things that Marathon announced. And in their earnings call, they announced some other stuff. They announced like a layer 2 Bitcoin protocol that they're working on. And then they announced they're working on new projects, that their team has been working on new projects, developing solutions and using ways to generate energy and leveraging the heat from Bitcoin mining profitably for low-grade industrial processes. Marathon Digital, the biggest Bitcoin miner out there, is spreading itself out. And to Wall Street and the market, again, that adds uncertainty. Why is Marathon, the biggest player in the space, the one with the most scale, looking for alternative revenue sources? Are these companies not as profitable and not as healthy as we thought just a couple of weeks ago? That's the image that Marathon might be giving off. And then you stack in the fact that CleanSpark's management team sold some shares at $21. You can start to see how this stuff adds up. And by the way, if you are new here or returning and not subscribed yet, be sure you subscribe. I'm guessing most of you watching this live probably are subscribed. Also, if you're not part of the membership, join the membership. You won't regret it. I absolutely promise you that. So you can do that by hitting the join button or going to my Patreon page. You get access to a bunch of perks. You can look through them. But this is another thing, okay? I ran this poll on X earlier. Does the upcoming Bitcoin halving make you excited or nervous to own Bitcoin mining stocks? And remember, my followers on X, I should say, my followers on X probably are Bitcoin bulls. They're bullish on Bitcoin. They probably own Bitcoin mining stocks. Chances are, if you watch my channel, you own CleanSpark, and they mine Bitcoin. So this is kind of going to be skewed in more of a bullish way than if this was just a random survey of investors. So again, I asked, does the upcoming Bitcoin halving make you excited or nervous to own Bitcoin mining stocks? And only 45% of respondents are excited about it, which means that 30% are nervous and 25% are both excited and nervous. So with over 55% of the people that follow me, there's at least some sort of nervousness with them when they think about the Bitcoin halving event coming up. And there could be a lot of reasons for that. Obviously, if you mine half the Bitcoin, you're theoretically gonna take in half the revenue. And with Bitcoin mining companies, you have a lot of fixed costs. Your energy costs are generally fixed. You're gonna have them every single quarter. And if your revenue gets cut in half while your fixed costs remain the same, you're a less profitable business. That might be part of the reason people are nervous about this. If Bitcoin doesn't rise enough, and if the difficulty doesn't come down enough, there is a chance that and I actually think it's likely that some of these public Bitcoin mining companies will cease to exist. I think the Bitcoin halving event is going to be a huge consolidation event where, right now there's like 20 public Bitcoin mining companies out there. I believe as the years progress, we're going to consolidate down to 3 to 4, maybe 5 total public Bitcoin mining companies. And I actually think that a lot of the private entities that are mining Bitcoin right now are going to cease to exist as well. Because if you're a private Bitcoin miner, you don't have access to the ability to raise capital via equity. So selling shares in the open markets like public companies have. And that's a huge lever that Bitcoin miners have been able to pull. If it is unprofitable to mine Bitcoin, or another way to put it is they've had the ability to sell shares to pay their bills. If the price of Bitcoin doesn't go up enough and these companies' revenues get cut in half, and these private entities in particular don't have the means to raise capital by selling shares, those are the sorts of companies that are going to cease to exist. And there's kind of two different groups of miners. I know I'm on a tangent right now. You have the group that has a highly efficient mining fleet, but their power costs are high. And then the other group is you have an entity that has a very non-efficient fleet of mining rigs that won't be able to mine profitably after the halving takes place, but they have very attractive power purchase agreements. So their fixed costs are low. So there's 2 buckets of Bitcoin miners that might be going out of business after the halving takes place. And that adds uncertainty to investing in Bitcoin mining stocks right now. We don't know for sure which companies are going to go bankrupt or have to sell their operations. We don't know. I have a hunch that Marathon and CleanSpark in particular are going to be 2 of the 3 to 4 to 5 companies that I mentioned I thought would consolidate and become the huge companies in the industry, but we don't know. And that adds uncertainty, that adds doubt, that adds fear. And if you ask me, it's actually a good thing for Marathon and CleanSpark that this halving event is going to take place because, again, you have those 2 buckets. Either just think of the 2 buckets as 2 buckets of companies that could be going out of business after the halving takes place. Bucket number 1, highly efficient mining rigs, but high power purchase agreements, so their fixed costs are high, their cost of electricity is high. They're going to sell their highly efficient mining rigs because they're worth a lot of money, And companies that have cheaper power or access to raise capital via equity are going to be able to purchase those highly efficient mining rigs off of those companies that maybe don't have the most attractive power purchase agreement. So that's CleanSpark, that's Marathon, that's some of the other miners you guys own. That's where some of the acquisition is going to take place. And then the other bucket of acquisition is the companies that have the infrastructure for very, very cheap power, cheap fixed costs, or low fixed, I guess I should say low fixed costs, that's more correct, that they're not going to be able to sell their less efficient miners because nobody's going to want them, but they're going to be able to sell their infrastructure. They're going to be able to sell their power purchase agreements, and that's, again, where CleanSpark and Marathon can come in and buy up those operations, that infrastructure, and deploy their own more highly efficient miners. So I went on just kind of a tangent there. I apologize for that. But I do think this is something, the halving event is adding uncertainty to owning Bitcoin mining stocks, and you're crazy if you don't think so. And then the last little point I was going to make in my video that, again, if you missed earlier, my brain just would not work earlier, so I forced myself to go live. That's why I'm live right now. You have this, lots and lots and lots of inflows to the Bitcoin ETFs. These ETFs acquire Bitcoin based on the amount of capital that comes into their ETFs. This is crazy. Last Tuesday, for example, 10,000 Bitcoin were added via all of these Bitcoin ETFs. On Wednesday, 11,500 were added. On Thursday, 1,500. And on Friday, 2,200. And we don't have the data for today yet. But this is an incredible amount of capital that is flowing into the Bitcoin ETFs. And that capital has to come from somewhere. Previously, a lot of, if institutions wanted exposure to Bitcoin, they would have to own MicroStrategy, maybe Tesla, even though their Bitcoin position isn't that large, or they had to own Bitcoin mining companies or the Bitcoin mining company ETFs. They've now been given another alternative where they can get direct exposure to Bitcoin by buying into these ETFs. So what happens? Well, obviously they pull their capital out of the MicroStrategy or the Tesla. It's not happening at MicroStrategy right now, but it's just an example. The Teslas, the Bitcoin miners, the Bitcoin mining ETFs, because they'd rather have direct exposure to Bitcoin via the legitimate Bitcoin ETFs, not the Bitcoin mining ETFs. So that in itself is potentially taking capital out of Bitcoin mining stocks and placing it into Bitcoin ETFs. Now let's discuss this. At a certain point, Bitcoin is going to go up so much that the Bitcoin mining stocks inevitably are going to go up as well. And eventually, the people or the institutions in Wall Street or the individual investors that want direct exposure to Bitcoin rather than owning these Bitcoin mining stocks, they will have taken their profits. The demand for Bitcoin ETFs will slow down. It's not going to continue like this. This is ridiculous, right? It's not going to continue like this. It will slow down. I'm not saying inflows are going to stop, but it's going to slow down. And at that point, when we reach that equilibrium again, I think that's when you can start to see more capital come back into Bitcoin mining stocks. And I guess the other thing I should mention is how Jerome Powell and a lot of Fed officials are speaking this week. And the reason why that is such a big deal for Bitcoin mining stocks, and I'll get to the chat in just a second, so leave your comments or questions there. But the reason that's such a big deal for these Bitcoin mining stocks is because, I already discussed it, this is a very capital-intensive industry. Highly, highly capital-intensive. And what Jerome Powell and his colleagues say is very important to where interest rates are going to go, to where the 2-year and 10-year Treasury yields are going to go. And that has a direct impact on the cost of capital. If the cost of capital goes up, obviously a highly capital-intensive industry is going to feel pain. It's just the way it works. So again, it's another thing adding uncertainty and fear to owning Bitcoin miners right now. Fed officials speaking. So I just went through 5 things that are adding uncertainty, fear, and doubt to owning Bitcoin mining stocks. And I think that's what it boils down to. There's a lot of dynamics at play here. And eventually the miner's day in the sun is going to come again. Let's just cycle back to my first point. Bitcoin over the past year is up 200%. Well, CleanSpark over the past year is up 566%. You're not going to, this doesn't happen. These Bitcoin mining stocks just don't run away from Bitcoin endlessly. At a certain point, there comes some corrections. At a certain point, remember, you're owning companies. When you buy Bitcoin mining stocks, although some people treat them like lottery tickets, they're not lottery tickets. These are legitimate companies. You're buying pieces of a company when you buy shares of CleanSpark or Marathon or Riot or Bitfarms, you name it. At a certain point, if a stock goes up so much, so fast, you price in so much growth, you price in such good Bitcoin prices, you price in such good revenues and profits that you need a breather. You need to deprice some of that in order to reset the stock. And I think that's also kind of what's at play here. I think this is what's happening here. So I guess that's kind of everything I wanted to go through. Let me check my video notes one more time. I'll get to your questions in the chat here before I sign off. Let me look through my notes. Yeah, I went through everything I wanted to. The last note that I'll make before I get to the questions is the traders that are taking profits or they're selling off the stocks right now, they'll be back. They'll be back. And those are the people that give long-term investors their long-term gains. Because if you think about it, the people that are selling CleanSpark today or Marathon today down 5%, they don't believe in Bitcoin long-term. They don't. Otherwise, they wouldn't be selling. The people that are selling Marathon and these Bitcoin mining stocks are traders. And there's another side to this equation as well. Who are the people that they're selling these shares to? Well, they're people like me. They're people like probably some of you watching this live stream. The long-term believers in Bitcoin, the long-term holders of these Bitcoin mining stocks. So what happens is the float gets smaller and smaller and smaller. I know these companies dilute shareholders, whatever. But again, that's why owning Bitcoin stocks can be such a volatile endeavor. It is a very trader, lots and lots of traders are buying and selling these stocks constantly. And as I like to say to my members and the people that watch my channel, the best thing to do through all of this is to buy undervalued assets and hold them until they are overvalued. I know it's harder than it sounds coming out of my mouth, but really through any price action, the best thing to do is to hold until you think it's overvalued based on your future projections. Like for CleanSpark, if you think that Bitcoin's going to hit $1 million by 2030, which Cathie Wood thinks it'll hit $1.5 million, you'd be making a big mistake for selling today at, what was it, at $16.5? Because I can tell you, if the price of Bitcoin hits 1 million or 1.5 million by 2030, the stock price of CleanSpark is going to be much higher than $16.5. And I've seen so many, in fact, I'm not just going to say I've seen it, it's happened to me. I've tried to time Bitcoin mining stocks. I've tried to time the tops and the bottoms, and I got burned. I've gotten burned in the past. And that's part of the reason I have this YouTube channel. I've made mistakes that I don't want other people to make. So hopefully through me making those mistakes and talking about it, it can prevent some of you or all of you from making those same mistakes that I made. But yeah, okay, let me get to the chat here. There's a lot of people that tuned in for this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I haven't live streamed in a long time. If you want me to live stream more, let me know. I'm not as good at this as I am just recording a video, but again, I just forced myself to go live. So JR asked, what happens to CleanSpark in the short term post-halving? Well, like I just mentioned, I think CleanSpark is going to be one of those companies that continues to build. I think there's going to be a lot of consolidation that happens after the halving event, and I think CleanSpark is going to acquire those distressed assets. They're going to acquire the infrastructure. They're going to acquire new, highly efficient mining rigs because they have the ability to do so. I always say that the Bitcoin mining space is very similar to farming. If you guys aren't aware of that, I'm a fourth generation farmer. My family owns a farm. We've farmed since 1930 something. I always say it's similar to that, where unfortunately, I wouldn't say this is a good thing, but unfortunately, the big get bigger and the small get squashed. So this is totally a business of scale. And if you achieve scale, you're going to be one of those companies that make it through, and you're going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger by acquiring the smaller entities. It's just the way it works. Right now, I would say I'm most confident in Marathon and CleanSpark in achieving that status of being those behemoths in the space and acquiring these distressed assets. Ricardo says you've helped people become rich with CleanSpark. Congrats. Well, congrats to you guys. I don't ever want people to say that I'm the reason they got rich. I know I talk about CleanSpark a lot. I really like the company. I like the stock a lot, and I talk about it. But in the end, you guys hit the buy and sell button, not me. Not me. I'm just a YouTuber that likes the stock market. I'm a nerd. I read SEC filings for fun. And it just so happens that I've kicked the market's butt over the last few years. And hopefully that'll continue by the grace of God, right? But no, seriously, I don't want people to give me credit for making them money, because I also don't want people to blame me for losing them money. Like, you know, I like to be here to bounce ideas off of people that watch my channel and get them thinking about things. But no, congratulations to you. You don't have to thank me at all. Any thoughts on Cypher and Riot? Not really. I don't think it would be fair of me to talk about them very much. It's been a while since I've dove deep into either of the companies. Yeah, I'll look into them and I'll see if I want to maybe make a video on them or include them in a Bitcoin mining stock video. We'll see. But I don't want to give my opinion on something that I'm not 100% certain of and I haven't done the proper research on. But in the end, this is what's going to happen in the end. If Bitcoin goes up, Bitcoin mining stocks are going to go up. If Bitcoin goes down, Bitcoin mining stocks are going to go down. I know it's been a little bit different over the past few days, but that's what's going to happen over the long term. That's just what's going to happen. So that's why I always say I'm not a fan of owning more than one Bitcoin mining stock, and people question me when I say that, but I would rather do the research and due diligence on all of these companies. And again, it's been a while since I've done the research, so maybe I should look into them again. But back when I did my initial research, it was evident to me that CleanSpark was the best opportunity. They had the best execution and efficiency. They had the best management team, or at least what I viewed as the best management team. And that's why I bought into that stock. And I'd rather just, I guess what I should say is I don't think you're diversifying by owning more than one Bitcoin stock. I don't. I'd rather focus on finding what I think is the best in breed and owning that company. So that's the way I think of that. Do you think any of it is price manipulation? Absolutely, Jeff. That's a good question. I wanted to mention that, but I didn't. I absolutely think that some of it is price manipulation. You have a lot of short interest piling into these Bitcoin miners. You have Wall Street. This is if I was Wall Street, this is what I would do. I would use this opportunity of all this abundant amount of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I would use it to convince people that they just bought into a dud. Because these stocks have ran so hard, so fast, I would convince investors that bought on the way up that they bought into a dud, so that they would sell off and sell you their shares. I'm just telling you what I would do if I was part of Wall Street. So I absolutely think that's a legitimate thought there, Jeff. So thank you for bringing that up. Greg says the growth of CleanSpark is the main reason I stuck with them. This is my second bull run with CleanSpark. I remember when we were at 2x. Me too, man. Me too. When do you think CleanSpark will follow Bitcoin again? Again, you guys have great questions, because this is something else I wanted to mention, but I forgot to. I believe that Bitcoin miners, so CleanSpark included, are going to start to outperform Bitcoin again once Bitcoin hits a new all-time high. I think that's going to be the catalyst. That's going to cause Bitcoin miners to see their day in the sun again. So we'll see if that plays out. But again, at a certain point, if the price of Bitcoin keeps going up, the Bitcoin mining stocks are going to have to react correctly to that. And the thing is, Wall Street can manipulate Bitcoin mining stocks much more than they can manipulate Bitcoin itself or the Bitcoin ETFs. So keep that in mind as well. So Darwin says Bitcoin's now at 68.2. So yeah, wow, 68.2. So we are how far away from an all-time high? 64.4. No, what was our I thought our all-time high was like 69 something, but it won't show here on the Google chart, unfortunately. But we're really close to a new all-time high, which is crazy. Okay, let me make sure I haven't missed any other questions. Somebody said selfishly, I hope it sells off so I can buy more. Yeah, and he says ownership is the key to wealth, not price. Absolutely. I agree with that. Hey, Fishy Friends joined the membership. Welcome, Fishy Friends. Yeah, it's beyond time for that. Again, if you guys want to join the membership, you won't regret it. I can make you that promise. And if you do regret it, I will 100% refund you for your first month. It's zero risk. Hit the join button or go to my Patreon page. You can scroll through the different tiers and see the benefits and perks you get with it. Our community is awesome. If you own CleanSpark stock, you need to be in the Discord server. And joining the membership is how you do that. Okay. Is there any other questions here quick before I sign off? Again, I wanted to come live because it forces me to talk about this. This was originally going to be a video I made, but I couldn't. I was so frustrated. I kept sitting down, hitting record, and I would fumble over my words, or I'd lose where I was at, and oh my gosh, I was frustrated. So I just hit the go live button, and it worked out okay. Maybe this is what I'll do whenever I hit a roadblock again when trying to record a video, because this was fun. This is a lot of fun doing this. Let's see. Okay, Biz says, what's your thoughts of the most recent price upgrades of $26 to $27 on CleanSpark? Yeah, I actually was given access to H.C. Wainwright. They've been sending me their research reports, which, again, I share with the members. So if you want to see those, be sure to join the membership. But they're absolutely onto something. But again, with analyst price targets, you have to remember that they're very biased. Like in a bear market, if you remember this, in the bear market, they like to downgrade, and then they won't raise price targets in a bear market, even if the stock is undervalued, which I think is crappy. I don't think that's the right way to do things. But then you'll see when the bull market comes around, upgrade, and it's kind of a positive feedback cycle, positive feedback loop that also ends up being a positive feedback loop for the stock because people see these raise price targets. Oh, I'm going to buy in. You know, the less informed investors will look at Google and they'll look at the average Wall Street price target for a stock. And if it's higher than the current share price, they'll just buy into it, right? So that's a big deal. Durno says 30% day tomorrow. I think a big day is due for the Bitcoin miners. I don't know if it'll be 30%, but I could see 15 to 25% absolutely, especially, like I said, when Bitcoin hits a new all-time high, that's when I think this will happen. That's when I think we'll hit the miners' day and the sun will come again. A good entry points to add to CleanSpark position. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I've done it in the past. I've tried to time the tops and bottoms and I've regretted it. So hopefully by me regretting it and making those mistakes, you won't make the same mistakes. I'm a long-term believer in Bitcoin and CleanSpark, and over the long term, if Bitcoin does well, CleanSpark's going to do well. So if you don't have a position in CleanSpark and you want one, or if your position isn't large enough, I would have zero issue buying into CleanSpark at $16.50 or whatever it was at today. And I don't know if I have that pulled up anymore. Let me see. $16.73. I wouldn't even think twice about buying at $16.73 if you believe in the long term of the company and Bitcoin. I wouldn't even think twice. The reason I haven't been adding in particular is because I own a ton of shares of CleanSpark at a very, very cheap price that because it's gone up so much, it makes up such a huge percentage of my portfolio. And if I buy more, I kind of risk adding concentration risk to my portfolio. That's why I haven't, because I believe my position is already large enough, but I understand a lot of you don't think your positions are large enough. Anyways, I'm going to end this live stream here. I gotta run. If you are new here or returning by chance and not subscribed yet, be sure you hit that subscribe button. I'm guessing most of you are subscribed if you tuned into my live stream about this. But feel free to share this live stream with people. I'll leave it up for replay if you want to come back and watch it. And maybe in the future I'll do more live streams, especially when especially when I'm struggling to record a video for whatever reason. So I appreciate everybody coming out. If you're just now tuning in, it'll be up for replay in just a little bit. Be sure to watch it from the beginning. I discuss why I think the Bitcoin mining stocks are not going up. And I think it's a bunch of things at play here. So again, if you're a CleanSpark shareholder, join the membership. If you regret it, I'll refund you 100%. And I promise you, you won't regret it. Hit the join button or go to my Patreon page and join the membership. It's basically a must if you're a CleanSpark shareholder. But yeah, with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, guys. Stay blessed. Have a great week. Hopefully, I'll be back in the recording mood for tomorrow, and maybe I'll have my 3 stocks I'm buying now video out for the month of March tomorrow. That's my goal anyways. Yeah, stay blessed. Have a great rest of your day. And until I see you next, thank you guys for tuning in.